Welcome. I would like to thank you all for joining us. We are Startup Poland. My name is Magdalena Beauchamp, and I work at Startup Poland as EU policy analyst. Startup Poland represents Polish startups in the dialogue with the Polish government, the EU, the international organizations, and we also draw legislative proposals for the government. We publish analysis, and we also create, and it's a constant process of creating the most comprehensive database of Polish startups in Poland. Oh, everything is okay?
Is that police or war?
One of the two. Shall we make a slight break?
Are we in a bunker right now?
And we're here to speak today about the concept of startup visa in the world. It's a very much discussed topic recently, especially by policymakers and also by the entrepreneurs. Over the last 5 years, 10 startup visa programs were announced, and and only in 2017 we are expecting 4 new programs to be announced by Estonia, by Lithuania, by Slovakia, and by Israel. Okay, finally to the guests, thank you very much again for coming here to Poland, to Warsaw. On stage we have Maria Palmieri. We have Mattia Corbetta and Rivo Riistop, who have contributed with the work to the creation of the policies in the UK, in Estonia, and in Italy. We also have Yaron from, I suppose, from Israel, but you represent French Tech Ticket program. You're the winner of the first edition of the French Tech Ticket. You also represent your own startup, Tridom, that deals with robotic construction. We have also guests from Belgium. Thank you very much. There's Ingrid, Willems, and Lenard Koschwitz. Ingrid is representing Startup Belgium, as well as your startup, We Connect Data. And Lenard Koschwitz represents Allied for Startups. And the first question is going to be directed to you, Lenard, because the European Commission is urging people to learn coding more and more intensively, because they detected that in 2020 we will be faced with the shortage of nearly 1 million ICT professionals in Europe, 800,000. There is a European startup visa project that has been introduced and announced by the Netherlands in January 2016, and is going to be followed up by the Slovak EU presidency in July 2016. And we're really interested if you could tell us what are the aims of the project. Do you see big chances of the adoption, and how is this instrument is going to facilitate hiring non-EU professionals in the case of Poland, if you could?
Great. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for having us. We're really thrilled to be here discussing that actually quite timely topic, because maybe as a short remark, the European Commission today will make announcements on a legal migration package, the so-called blue card scheme, which, and here I have to crush your hopes in the first sentence again, it's not a startup visa, but it could have been. So we see a little bit of a missed opportunity there, because the European Commission is right now working on legal migration packages, but they considered that it the Dutch proposal, as you mentioned, wasn't quite on time for them to include it in this one, but we are extremely happy that the Dutch presidency brought this topic on the agenda. We're trying to support them as much as possible, because we think this is really one of the topics that is, makes an awful lot of European sense. I mean, when you hear the European Union discussing policies relevant for startups, the digital single market is all over the place. And it's all about creating one real single market in the digital sphere that will allow startups to grow more easily across Europe, first of all. And we at Allied for Startups, we simply believe it doesn't make sense to have one digital single market and 27 national visa schemes. So that is very much the first logical reflection on why a European startup visa makes sense. Also because entrepreneurs from abroad, and Yaron, maybe you can comment on that in a minute, they see Europe, they don't see Luxembourg and they don't see Poland, but they see really Europe, and that's where they want to do business. Well, we think it's the right moment right now. Maybe on the legal competence side, it is one of the European competences, so we're not aiming for the stars here, but we're aiming for something that already exists for students, for researchers. It exists for intra-corporate transferees or for seasonal workers. So we think it's not only the right moment, but it's also something that is within the competence of the European Union. We'll keep pushing for this. We're looking forward to your report, and we'll be using that as much as possible to raise awareness amongst policymakers on that topic.
Thank you, Lenard. I will now address Mattia Corbetta. Excuse me, I didn't introduce Mattia Corbetta as a representative of the development ministry in Italy, and Rivo Riistop from Startup Estonia. So could you briefly describe your country-specific startup policies and tell us more about the impact on the economy to date that you've gathered in your organizations?
Yeah, so I mean the UK is a bit in a funny position right now. So it's interesting to see, because we're so focused. Well, the UK is so focused on lowering migration that it's very important to get the right kind of people in. So we don't have a startup visa yet. There have been recommendations made that this should come into force, but again, everything's on hold right now. What we have done is, so I work for Tech City UK, which is government-backed organization, and we have implemented this Tech Nation visa, exactly, which is for exceptionally talented people who want to start their business in the UK. We're at very low numbers right now, so it's 200 a year, unfortunately, but we're looking to really build on that. And I think that, there are other options, like entrepreneurs can come in through their university, if they're recommended, they can do a graduate entrepreneur visa and then switch, and then they can have some funding. But again, there are a lot of restrictions. It's a very difficult space right now, so we're really working hard with the Home Office to try and implement something that really works. And this kind of European, I mean, hopefully will still be part of it, but is a very good idea, because actually the UK is such a good segue into the European market that if we're not there, I don't know what will happen to our immigration policy.
Right. Thank you. So for Estonia, actually, we're about to launch our visa program. We don't have it yet, but it's approved by the government, and then sometime in the autumn we will have it. But so I think it's pretty liberal what we actually have accomplished now. So startups from third countries can easily come to Estonia for like 12 months stay. And the question, of course, is, as you mentioned too, how to actually attract the so-called like the right people. So the way we have found the solution to this question is that we have like two tracks. Either if you have a local facilitator, like an accelerator, then it's really easy to get aboard. The second way is like the longer way. So if you don't have the local partner, then you will be evaluated by an expert panel. But the best part is that the expert panel will be made up of like seasoned startup founders, so they actually know the business and understand it. And but that's like only like one part of the equation. So if we want to look at like the startups and also like our local startups, so what's like the biggest problem, what keeps them from growing is actually like the talent pool. So we are like an only nation of 1.3 million, but like skilled people, it's definitely not only a problem for Estonia, so it's like in our European countries. So together with the startup visa, we're actually launching also special treatments for startup employees, meaning that they get to come to Estonia for better conditions, meaning that basically all they need to display is that they have the sufficient funds to fund their own stay. So I hope that something like this eventually will also be pan-European. So as Lenard started off, then Estonia was like rooting for Startup Delta from day one, and we are still in support of that. So hopefully once we have this digital market working as it should be, but so thus far we are like trying to create a really startup-friendly system on our own.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank both you and Elisa for this invitation. You're really people that it's nice to work with, and I don't want to be celebrative, but I really feel it, so I wanted to really thank you with the mic on my hands. Secondly, I will tell you a little bit about how it works in Italy with the Italian Startup Visa program. So to appreciate this program, you need to know how standard regulations are for self-employment visas. And so I find it a little bit funny, so I will tell you about this story, which I used to define as a horror one. It's like a horror movie for standard entrepreneurs, not startuppers. Like the normal way to get a self-employment visa to come to Italy is like this. First of all, you need to apply to a local chamber of commerce, which is an association of companies that keeps, for example, the register for companies, and ask them to check whether your business plan meets a not well specified national interest. So it must be a company that matches a non-well identified national interest. Secondly, there's a financial threshold, and this threshold varies according to the region in which you apply and according to the sector. So for a non-EU citizens, it's not at all easy to understand. Of course, any communication works just exclusively in Italian, so you will not be able to communicate with whom you're applying for in another language. In addition to this lack of clarity of norms, lack of possibility to communicate in English, etc., you need to contact the local questura, which is a sort of police station, to check whether you're not a terrorist, a drug smuggler, an organ dealer, and so on and so forth. To do that, either you go there physically, which doesn't make any sense because you're applying for a visa, or you ask somebody to go at your place to represent your interests, but this may be done just through a contract and through a notary, which is costly, takes time, and it's crazy. So as you can guess from this introduction, there haven't been multitudes of people coming to Italy with self-employment visas in the last decades. With Italian Startup Visa, and now the beautiful part of the story begins, the process takes place entirely in English. It's probably the first website of the Italian administration just in English. Totally, wholly online, so no physical meeting with police station, blah, blah, blah. In 30 days, no longer than 30 days, online and free of charge, of course. So anything you need to do is just to go to the website, which is italianstartupvisa.misc.gov.it, submit a business plan, a decent one, of course. There are some people evaluating your business plan, not crazy bureaucrats as I am, but people coming from the ecosystem, so VC people or business angels who tangibly do it hands-on every day. You need also to provide evidence of a financial availability of at least 50K, which may be either your own resources, like a bank statement, or a letter of intention to invest from an investor or a bank, etc. So just two things you need to show: that you have a valid idea, that you intend to set up a new business in Italy in the high-tech field. It can be any sector, and this proof of financial availability. After that, in 30 days, you get back our certificate of no impediment to go to a consulate or embassy and get your visa. So this is how it works. 30 days, centralized, online, for free, logical, makes sense, streamlined. So as a policymaker, it has been a big revolution for me to experiment this new procedure, changing the laws that usually subtend to standard self-employment visas. And I guess that other countries have done similar things, so it's also interesting to experiment in this kind of field.
And just one follow-up question. You have this policy implemented already for 1.5 years over, and what?
100 people have applied so far. Like on the 30th of April, they were exactly 100 people from 28 countries. So interesting. They come from countries one wouldn't expect, like Nepal or Pakistan, India, Brazil, the US, lots of Ukrainians, Russians, very talented people, and it's really, I get emotional when I get these applications because there are lots of interesting stories behind them.
I'm sure.
Now it's like 1 year ago, we had a very poor performance, just a few tens of applications. In the last 4 months, it's been skyrocketing. So probably on the 30th of, like the next report that we'll issue, we'll have 200 applications. So it's growing now.
And do you help them on the way in some way, or you just leave them?
The way we help them is, first of all, not to get lost in the Italian red tape when they want to get a visa.
Exactly, administration.
Then after that, we follow up, so we help their integration with the Italian ecosystem. We introduce them to associations like Startup Poland, but in Italy, of course, networks of business angels, investors, incubators, etc. Of course, there's a fast track. In the event you apply through an incubator, so similarly to what is going to happen in Estonia soon. And yes, so we help them with all the bureaucracy which follows after their arrival in Italy. First of all, their conversion of the visa into a residence permit, and then we help them integrate with the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. This is very informal. It's not structured like in Chile with the Startup Chile program.
Thank you very much. Now the question to Yaron, more hands-on, because we have the chance to have you here. So Yaron, you're the winner of the first edition of the French Tech Visa, a program, incubation program that has been implemented in 2015 at the very beginning in France. For non-French entrepreneurs to set up a company in Paris. So what are your impressions? And you also have experiences with the Israeli market and how they do it from their side. So could you please compare your experiences and how much more interesting it was for you to locate your startup in Paris instead of in Israel?
So first of all, I would also like to thank you all for having us here and for putting on the sirens and making me feel at home. So I get this question a lot because I come from Israel, which is like tagged as a startup nation, and then I moved to Paris, which has almost no known entrepreneurship. I guarantee you that there are startups there and there are many entrepreneurs. I would say that the main reason for us to come was because of the ecosystem. And I don't mean the entrepreneurial or startup ecosystem, I mean the business, the commercial ecosystem of the country itself. So what I see from the side is that as an entrepreneur, every country is trying to somehow be Silicon Valley. And I think that's a mistake. It's the worst thing you can do for your country because there's only one Silicon Valley and it's in San Francisco. Even New York doesn't try to be Silicon Valley. It went on finance, it went on different sectors that they have a strong suit in. So my recommendation to countries is find what your strongest ecosystems are within your country and then broadcast those, and that would be the reason why talented entrepreneurs who are interested in these sectors will come to you and not go other places. Because you're not going to beat Silicon Valley, there's just more money there. So on their game, no one's going to beat them. And this relates to why we went to France, because so we're in the construction industry. We develop robots that 3D print buildings using concrete, and we want to revolutionize construction. For that, we need big companies in construction, in materials, in machinery, and Israel doesn't have any of that. So France, for us, was the #1 choice because some of the biggest companies in the world for construction, for materials, are French. And if they're not French, then they're in Germany or the UK or Switzerland or Netherlands. And for us, it was a key to enter into Europe for more for the business development side. But then the flip side of that, because we're in construction, most of the new construction in the coming 15, 20 years is happening in East Asia, Arabian countries, Africa, Latin America. Being an Israeli startup, even being an American startup, isn't your best choice for that. So having a French subsidiary or a European company, for us also was a good choice. So these were the two kind of defining factors for why we came to France. And if we were in a different sector, then maybe there would be different countries in Europe that would be our main goal, our main incentive to go to. Yeah.
And could you maybe also explain what impact did the program make on the growth of your startup?
So once for us it was easier also because we won the program, but I think even if you don't have that kind of the hype around you through that, by entering through a program, you're pretty hyped anyway because they're not...
If you could maybe, excuse me, explain also to the audience what's so particular about the incubation program in Paris as well.
So to be honest, I don't think it's that much different to Startup Chile or any other incubation program. At the end of the day, the ingredients are the path with least bureaucracy. So the easiest path to get to where you want to go. Everything else is just taking away time and resource, and as an entrepreneur and as a startup, that's the one thing you don't have to waste, because everything else you simply don't have. So the easiest path is the #1 choice, and then in terms of the incubation process, you enter an incubator which has many different shapes and forms in different countries. In France, for example, it's mostly consultancy firms or individuals that have sector-specific knowledge, open an incubator, get some funding, and then can make introductions. I'm not sure that's the best way to categorize or work an incubator, but that's for a different discussion. And then you have introductions and networking events with the relevant parties in your industries. For us, it was the construction companies, the material manufacturers, infrastructure and so on, governments. And by coming in through a government-funded program, then many doors are easier opened because you've got a headline to show, because there's someone pushing you forward. You don't have to open the door by yourself. You don't have to you get introductions rather than look for them. Mm-hmm. I think so. That would be one of the biggest incentives to come to a new country, is if the program that's bringing you is also taking care to show you the path and kind of lay down the road for you in terms of who to talk to, who are the key stakeholders, who are the players, and a lot above that, what is the business mentality, right? So in Israel, if I come late to a meeting, it's fine, 5, 10, 15 minutes, no one cares, really. In France, it's a bit different, right? In Israel, I would never wear a suit to a tie, to a meeting, never. I wouldn't even wear a button shirt. In France, you want to put on a button shirt when you go to a meeting, you'll feel more comfortable. These small things are information you get when you come there, help you make your stay easier and more successful.
And what's the stage of the development of Tridom now? Where are you now?
So kind of in the middle of our first major round of fundraising, and we've built one prototype, and now we're building an at-scale model, which basically means a crane with a 3D printer on it, basically.
All the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yaron. And my question to Ingrid. What are your experiences in We Connect Data and also from Startup Belgium in recruiting tech talents, mainly obviously from outside the EU?
Well, thank you very much for asking the question and as well looking into it from a startup point of view. At We Connect Data, it says itself, we're all working around aggregating data, open data, internal data, in order to build added value products and services using these kind of linked data. Now we're looking really for developers, we're looking for data scientists, and it's quite difficult in Belgium to find the right people, especially as we have an ecosystem that is growing very nicely. If you have a developer, you're a developer. If you are a data scientist, there are sufficient big companies who want to pay quite nice salary. So it's very hard, first of all, to get these people. And we just went through a process of hiring somebody. We found a very awesome guy who is a Pakistani from origin, but who studied data science in London. And he was more than happy and willing to come to Belgium and work for a very early startup. So we got in talk, we went through the process of getting to know each other. And then we wanted to start the process of looking for work permit for him. It was horrible. It was just the whole process that we have to go through in order to get for him the right permit to stay. It would take us like 4 to 6 months to get feedback. So where we are now, to wait for somebody 4 to 6 months is already a no-go on our side. But then secondly, if we would get him into the country, if he would be able to join us, the next step would be that as he doesn't have a track record in terms of health insurance in Belgium, as a company, we have to cover all the costs. If he gets ill, if he gets an accident, whatever, we will have to cover for that. Again, as a startup, you're not in a position to go there and to do that. So honestly, when we talked to different people, we decided that was not the right way to move on. We had a long discussion with him saying, hey Ingrid, I can stay where we are at the moment, I can work for you as a freelancer. Nevertheless, at the stage we are today, we're building IPR. We cannot have somebody at this stage, working for us. Up to where we are today, we worked a lot with Upwork, Elance, and we have a very international team thinking global. But at the stage we're now really wanted to speed up and scale, we really need to have the resources in-house and in Belgium. So then, outside EU is difficult, or at least these countries with whom we don't have an agreement as Belgium. We looked into the Erasmus project to see if that would be an opportunity to find entrepreneurs in Europe who would be willing for an exchange to come over and so forth. We're very early in that one. We have been contacting quite some people, but of course that will normally be easier as there is a formalized process of setting it up and moving ahead. So at this stage, if anybody knows a PHP developer, please send them to weconnectdata.com.
I suppose everyone would have that request at the very end. Ingrid, if you could follow up with the second question. So based on all the answers and what we've heard today, Poland doesn't have a visa policy yet. And what would be your recommendations from your countries and the situation, the background that you already know around the topic?
Yeah, what I hear is, I think it's twofold. I think it is very good to have people from outside coming in. I think for any entrepreneurial ecosystem, diversity is one of the drivers of success. The more you have people coming from another background, coming with other stories, coming outside of the small ecosystem, the better it is. I mean, that is, there's a lot of research done on that. There's a lot of clarity that is a way in order to really come to innovation, to reinvent yourself and to move ahead. So I think fighting for having startup visa is something that is very important. We're fighting in Belgium as well. We don't have it yet approved, but there is interest, and I'm sure we're getting there. So I would really go on. Nevertheless, I think at the same time that the right startup programs make a lot of sense. And here I want to confirm what Yaron said just before. I think we should stop fighting being the startup city. of Europe, everybody for himself. I really strongly believe in what is happening on European networks, on really making sure that people, startups, entrepreneurs can move throughout the whole ecosystem and get and tap into the resources they need in order to grow, being it technical resourcing in the beginning, being it going to market support in the end. So I strongly believe that a combination of both is what is the right thing to do.
The way forward. Thank you. Please, Yaron, if you could continue with the question. What would be your recommendations from both France and Israel for Poland if we were to think up a startup visa policy?
I would say start up something that doesn't need any bureaucratic red tape. Bring people, everybody in for a 3 to 6 months trial process. And if they pass certain criteria, keep them. And if not, then they can't stay. And that's the way you'll have the biggest funnel with the most good people coming to you. I mean, any other way you're creating hurdles that are stopping certain types of people from coming. For example, I would never get a visa to the UK. I'm a citizen in the UK, so I don't need, but I would never be accredited by any university because I didn't really do much academic studies. I've never worked in a corporate, so I have no track record of that. I mean, I've been self-employed since I was 21. So I would never qualify for programs like that. So that was my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's about recommendations for the Polish government, right? I have a few ones. My tips are the following. First, it must be totally online. The procedure must take place online. Secondly, it must guarantee certainty of the law to the applicant. So the applicant needs to understand how it works, how long it takes, what he needs to do, where he needs to go, if he needs to go physically somewhere, hopefully not, and how much money is required, etc. It must be transparent, and it must be fast. In order to make this kind of thing, you need the political willingness to do that. And in this very specific historical moment, there might be some problem related to the fact that we are experiencing this massive phenomenon of immigration in Europe, right? And in order to tackle this kind of possible obstacle to launching a startup visa policy, if I were you, my strategy would be to say to these people, like decision makers, hey guys, we're talking just about a few tens of people. Look at the Italian performance or also the Dutch one. The Netherlands have a great program too for startup visa, but we're still talking about a few tens, like probably 200 or 300 applications, no? So it's not huge masses and crowd of people. So be strategic. Use this kind of argument. We're talking just about a few people. It can also contribute to the branding of the country. Think about the great work that Estonia has done with the digital residency or Startup Chile. This really contributes to the branding of a country. So it can also be a good political tool to say to decision makers that this kind of program can increase the visibility and the credibility of one's country. And basically that's it. That's it. And then I would say that it's important. She said, like, it's no mystery. There's no hidden ingredient in making an ecosystem successful. Everybody knows that Silicon Valley, Israel are the places that count, the temples of innovation in the world, just because they have multitude of people coming from different countries. So and this must be said with strength to decision makers.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mattia, for great words. Yeah, I have a feeling these are our closing remarks, so I once again thank Magdalena and Elisa for having us and actually meeting such great people from other countries who are dealing with the same topic. As for Poland, you don't have the age of being the first on the market with the startup visa, but on the other side, there are many countries that already have these schemes. So you are in the same position as we were, so we can learn from them their experiences. So according to that, you can actually make a really good scheme. But secondly, I would suggest to, if possible, keep the threshold understandably low, meaning that, of course, it's easier to evaluate according to quantitative criteria, but on the other hand, it actually might leave out quite a big bunch of companies that actually are very promising. So qualitative criteria are harder to evaluate, but then again, it might get you better content. And third, I would suggest, if possible, then, as we are doing, if possible, then address both the foreign teams, but as well try to lower the threshold to bring in foreign talent for your own startups. And yeah, if these are the closing remarks, then we are talking about different possibilities to move to different locations around Europe. If you want to run an e-commerce company where you are at the moment, then there's a possibility to apply for Estonian e-residency. So if you have questions about that, I'm happy to share some insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. So first of all, I would say my recommendations for a Polish startup visa are exactly the same as the ones for a European startup visa. I recently wrote an article, 6 ways that going to make a European startup visa a success. So I'm not going to repeat those. You can find them online. But I want to leave one point with you and hopefully provoke 1 or 2 questions or an interesting discussion in the afterwards. I think a startup visa, no matter how good it is, it will never attract entrepreneurs to a certain ecosystem. But as Yaron said, it's going to be an ecosystem. It's going to attract entrepreneurs to come and build up their business where it is. The very best startup visa, the best way a startup visa the best role a startup visa can play there is as looped and insignificant and silent as possible. If an entrepreneur comes to a country and he doesn't even realize that he's been going through a visa process, well, that's a good visa process. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's tough to beat. So thank you for having me. I didn't thank you earlier. And I would say that the UK's immigration system is just so complicated. So if you have a chance to kind of do something from fresh and keep it simple, just make it in language that people can understand, I think that's a huge plus, because people's lives are at stake and they get so worried about their future that anything like that helps. And speed, people don't have time to waste, so anything that can get them quicker, a trial-based period could help, anything through an accelerator program maybe, so they can be accepted directly into an accelerator, come out so they can be vetted for a few months to know that they're going to be successful. Those are some ideas. But yes, thank you again.
Thank you.
Magda, I would like to add another couple of tips very quickly. Don't think just about visas, but think also about simplifying and accelerating the procedure for converting residence permits. There are lots of non-EU citizens who are probably already here in Poland studying for master. Look at him, for example. Now maybe his student residency permit is going to expire in 2 months, and maybe he wishes to stay in Poland because he got to know some entrepreneurs or some people with whom he would like to launch a company. And maybe, I don't know how it works here, but in Italy at least, converting a residence permit from a student status to an entrepreneur status is very complicated. So if he was in Italy 3 years ago, he should go back to his home country and apply for a self-employment visa, which takes money, energy, time, etc. So also think about simplifying and streamlining the procedure for converting residence permits from the student status to the self-employment status. And the other tip, and I will shut up after this, is once you've managed to accomplish your dream to have a startup visa program here in Poland, don't forget to identify committed focal points in two key ministries that play a great role in startup visa policies, Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Because if you give them the green light for the visa, but then go to the consulate or embassy in their home country, and the consulate or embassy doesn't know about the program, you need to call somebody at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and tell him, hey guy, call the embassy because they are doing a mess. They are destroying our attempt to streamline the procedure. So there must be commitment from these ministries, but in particular have some smart people there that you can contact to streamline procedures when things are going wrong, because it can happen.
Okay, perfect, thanks so much.
I'll add on that, sorry. So part of the French Tech Ticket, we have what's called the help desk. So we have each, I think 3 or 5 startups have a dedicated person, because everything's in French, unlike in Italy, where it obviously is in English. And so we have kind of immediate answers on any question we have, and they take care of the bureaucratic processes, whether it's with the immigration or with the police or with whomever.
And perhaps that's not only external and international startups would need that, but every startup would some now and then need some help on administrative stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you all very much. All the remarks seem to be extremely helpful, and I think we will build on them. Hope that all the girls were making notes. Thank you very much again. One more thing, if we have an urgent question from the audience, someone would like to have a follow-up question? Yes, please.
Thank you guys for addressing this topic. Personally, I'm caught in this little storm of like bureaucracy and everything. So for you to address this and to like diversify the country's ecosystem and stuff, that's super important. And I think it's also very important for the Polish ecosystem to realize that diversity is probably a really good fertilizer to grow. Because, I mean, okay, it's great to think the same, but sometimes thinking the same might inhibit you from growing. So that's and I applaud Startup Poland for realizing this and to get something going.
Thank you. There's one more question, please be very short. Thank you.
Okay, I will try. Thank you again for all that you said. I have one question regarding the promotion of your programs, because you mentioned that they were created also to work as a, well, sort of a branding tool for the country as the hub for entrepreneurs. Do you promote your programs, well, in your target groups, and how do you do that? Just like a few words. Thanks.
I'm so glad you mentioned this, because I've got some brochures right anyway,
perfect occasion.
That you can get afterwards. But it's difficult for us. Just for Tech City, we are government backed, but we're an independent organization. So with this visa route, we have room to market it. And actually, the main problem, we weren't attracting talent because no one knew that this route existed. So it's challenging. I've personally worked really hard to kind of get it out there. And it's definitely something that's important for every country to consider.
So from a European overview, I think from the existing programs, well, I can only pass on the microphone to to my fellow speakers to my right. I think they did a great, both countries actually did a great job in promoting the schemes.
Well, for us, we're promoting actively our like Startup Estonia as a whole program. So the visa is just like part of helping like startups and talent to settle in and come in. But that part we haven't promoted yet. So it's like more like promises, and we haven't launched the solution yet. So it's coming. But as a whole, we in similar events like these, we go and do like road shows for our ecosystem. And so next to like proposing different regulation changes, we also like give training to startups and also see that they have enough funding available. So we work together with like business angels, and they're launching accelerators. So we do like a bunch of stuff just to create a good supporting ecosystem. But more and more we see that actually like doing lobby for our startup companies, it's increasing in importance. Yeah. So I sum it up as the startup visa scheme, since it's not out yet, so we don't talk about that much. I do today, but I'm trying to be humble. But soon we will start promoting
big
it
campaign.
widely. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I will interrupt you, Mattia, if you may, because this is a great occasion to promote Startup Visa, Startup Poland, the latest publication on startup policies in the world. So I'll send you the link, and I would like to announce that the publication is online in English and in Polish, and you'll find it on our website startuppoland.org. So it's there. Again, thank you very much for all your answers, for telling the stories and sharing the stories, and for being here with us in Warsaw. So hopefully to meet you again somewhere in the world. Thank you very much, and all the very best with the efforts to create better programs and better startup schemes. Thank you very much.